But when you answer what makes you happy, it's all different for every one of us in this room. Every one of us has a different thing that makes us happy. I am going to share to you with one thing that makes me happy, and I got a whole long list of them, okay? One, I love boxes. I love when boxes come to the house. I love when the FedEx truck or UPS pulls up and delivers something. I'm like, this is a magical day. It's a surprise. Even if I ordered it, it's still a surprise. I didn't know it was coming today. I like surprises, and typically they come in boxes. And then my kids, they love it as well. They're like, Dad, FedEx is here. We gotta go get the box. They love going to get the mail because they don't know what colorful brochures we're gonna get in the mail. And I try to teach them the more colorful it is, it's probably somebody trying to sell me something. But they think it's great. They want to put them all by their bed. And so if you go into my kids' bedrooms, they don't have posters of like celebrities. It's like how to get siding done, or it's a dealership selling a car because they just like, the shape of this is unique. Pray for my children, okay? They need some help. But we love boxes, and they get it from me. I have things that people have gifted me, and I asked them, I was like, man, this box is awesome, that I've never opened. I'm like, the mystery of what could be inside the box is the energy for me. It's like, I look at the box and I'm like, oh man, I think this is in it. But if I open said box and then it's not what I think it is, you get let down. But it's the box. It's like, what could be in it? I just like that. I like the idea of, you guys, something wrong with you. It's okay. But today I have a box up here that really excites me. If you've ever heard of the Apple HomePod, like this thing, like, I'm happy about this. This purchase makes me happy because let's just open it really quick here. Got this box. It still has the wrapping up here. Like it's brand new. Let's plug this in, and I will show you why. One, this is not some like advertisement for Apple. Okay? So you're like, I came to church, and then no. Let me just plug it in here. It turns on. It's a speaker. It's like 2 years ago I got, is it Alexa? Is that the name, the Google thing that talks to you? I got that, and it was awesome. You can talk to it, play games, and I'm an Apple guy. I got an Apple iPad. I got an Apple phone, and so I like my life connected with Apple. And so this is great because you can say, hey Siri. She lights up. Okay, will you play Happy from Pharrell? See if she does it.
Okay, let's hear Happy from Despicable Me 2 by Pharrell Williams.
Come on, that's like, I'm happy about this. Listen to this. Come on, right? Some of you bobbing your head like, yeah. Yeah. Hey Siri, what's the weather today?
It's currently cloudy and 60 degrees in Maple Grove. Expect mostly clear skies starting in the afternoon. Today's high will be 71 degrees and the low will be 60.
Hey Siri, where are the cops stationed on the road today?
The Cubs are playing on the road.
Oh, the Cubs, see? No more. Okay, Siri. Siri. Hey Siri, stop the music. There you go. Okay, see, come on. I saw you. You were happy too. He's like, woo! It makes me happy. Now, here's the same excitement that I have for this thing right here, and it's a thing. The same excitement and happiness I have for this right now, I had for Alexa. I was like, whoa, this thing's legit. It came to the house. I opened it. It was a gift to me, and I loved it, and I was excited. But when this got announced by Apple, guess what? Alexa, she went down a notch. I was like, ugh, I got an old thing now. I'm not so happy with her anymore. I'm going to be really happy when I get that, though. And then now, as I was beginning to think about it, I was like, I'm really happy about this. My good friend Tyler helped me get this. And I'm really happy about my purchase. But I understand when Apple brings out probably what they will call creatively the HomePod 2, I will be, I got the one. Like the new one, it can tell me where the cops are stationed. I want to know that information. I need that. I won't be happy until I get that. I mean, think about your phone, right? You have a cell phone that you were really excited about getting, and then the next year you were just equally excited and happy about the new version of the phone that a year ago made you happy. And then I started realizing that actually, we don't find our happiness from a thing or two, it's a who or two. that when you boil it all down in life, it's not about the things we accumulate, though we trick ourselves to think it's about the things I get, they make me happy. And they give you a momentary relief of whatever you're walking through in life. It makes you feel good, but it doesn't give you happiness. It gives you an imitation of happiness, because really at the end, think about it. If you've ever met someone that is passing away, knows their days are now really numbered because they've gotten something diagnosed, or they're older, and they don't go, hey, would you go get me my baseball collection? I got to make things right with them. When I was 40 years old, I stopped looking at them, and I think I've offended them, so I need to make it right with those things. No one's going, hey, can you just bring my car to the hospital out the window? I needed to just say one last thing to the car. I smashed it, and I feel really bad. No one does that. They go, can you get my dad up here? Can you get my mom up here, because my relationship with my mom was not good, or my brother or sister? Because at the end of the day, and we all know this, we just don't live this way, that real happiness comes through a who or two, not a thing or two. I mean, it's Dr. Seuss all over again, right? He's a genius. He says it. It's a who or two, not a thing or two. But it feels so good to get that thing. But guess what? If I drop that on the ground, you guys all might like, what? Like, let's just do that. Let's just throw it down on the ground really quick. Unplug you, okay? And I'm just messing. Somebody's like, wait a second. You're gonna do what? Just messing. That would not make me happy. But the thing wouldn't be offended with me, right? There's no relational fallout with this. Now, there might have been a relational fallout with some of you going, you did. That is unwise, okay? There's no cost to that in relationship. But when it comes to a who or two, there is relational costs. And sometimes we get hurt and offended and we just say, I'm done. And then when life gets to that numbered days, we go, I can't be done with that. I can't end it like this. I need to go make corrections. And so in light of that, today we're going to talk about happiness. We're going to actually spend the next 4 or 5 weeks talking about how to be happy. Because we live in a culture that is paying billions of dollars a year to figure out how to be happy. And today will be the starting point of how to do this, and then we'll wrap it up 4 or 5 weeks, and hopefully we all are understanding a little bit more about how to be happy. And so I unplugged Siri, so any one of you thought it would be funny to call me or something that it didn't go through the speaker, because then I'd be really distracted, be like, what Siri? And so here's what I want us to jump into and drive this home. Here's what I think will drive this point home for you, that it's about relationships. As a pastor for 22 years, 17 of those years, I was a youth pastor. That meant I worked with middle school and high schoolers. I love the next generation. Actually, the high school camp that we're going to take our high schoolers and middle schoolers to, I'm the camp speaker that week. And I love hanging out with the next generation. One, it's the fountain of youth, keeps you young. 2, I just love it when a young person gets that God has a plan for them. The light bulb goes off because all of a sudden they live their life with a purpose. I mean, God has a plan for me. And it's the same for adults. It just takes a lot for us as adults to get to that, okay, I got to get over all the baggage that I've walked through in my life. Then I believe that. Imagine if you go back in your life when you were a teenager, 13 years old, and you believed that God had a plan for you. Would you do things differently? I would assume yes. But here, in 22 years of being a pastor, man, you meet with people that have really rough moments in their life. And one of the areas in people's lives that breaks my heart is when a young couple that's been married for 1 or 2 years, 3 years, different stories, but they sit down and they just sharing, we've been trying everything to get pregnant. We want to bring another who in the world, and we can't. We want to. Like, we've decided that we want to love another who. And it breaks their heart, and they're sitting across the table from me and Holly just sharing how sad they are. And then they always, in some form of this, they utter, man, we've tried to find some kind of happiness in this season in our life. We've gone on vacations and cruises because it's just the two of us. And when we cannot get over this, we are sad. Because they are realizing, and even in that story, that you realize they're not sad because they don't have things. They're sad because they don't have a who. It's not the things. It's the who's in our lives that matter. Now, this is not a conversation of like, you got to get rid of all your things because I'm up here with an Apple HomePod, an Apple iPhone, and an Apple Watch, and an Apple. This is not that. It's not saying, but if you find your happiness from that, you're going to be in big trouble when those things break down. If the thing that makes you happy right now breaks down, gets old, rusts, falls apart, you're going to be really sad because you are not happy anymore. And you've got to then go purchase something bigger. You've got to spend more money to find your happiness. Happiness is relational in nature. And like I said in moments ago, in the end, you will have relational, not possessional regrets at the end of your life. No one at the end of their life makes it right with things. It's with people. Okay, so now there's going to be some of you going out there going, no, but I don't need anyone to make me happy. When you say it's about people, I don't need anyone to make me happy. You know who primarily says that are guys. Well, it's like the macho thing. I don't need anybody to make me happy. I could be all right living in the woods by myself. There's a show that I absolutely love. It's called Alone. And the whole idea of this reality TV show is they take 10 people and they take them up into Canada in the middle of nowhere and they let them live as long as they can. There's no end to this show. You tap out. They give you a red button if you're afraid, injured, or whatever that you're supposed to keep on yourself, and you hit the red button. They bring you in and teach you how to videotape so that they can record what you're doing. So you march through all of this wilderness by yourself, recording what you're doing, building a hut, fishing. Like you're given 10 pieces of equipment. So you pick these 10 items that here's 100 items. You get 10 going. Like you can pick a tent, you can pick a knife, and they all go, man, I can do this forever. Forever, I can do this. And they get out there, one of the seasons, they get all dropped off, and they're about 10 miles away from each other. And where they're dropped off in Canada is really hilly. So it's not advantageous to walk to the other person because it would take days, and you need food. You're not going to do that because you're going to end up having to tap out. One of the episodes, like we're hours into the season, and a dude taps. He's like on this beach and he's just moping around in the woods and he hits it and they go, why'd you tap so fast? He's like, there was no one around. Like I was alone. And it's like, I'm watching it, I'm going, the show is called Alone. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, this is not Alone, and then we show up a day or an hour later with another person. This is called Alone, okay? You were meant to do this alone. And the dude just tapped. Now, the length, I think I watched the first 3 episodes or seasons, and they all talked about, like, they were skilled. These people are skilled. They're not just novice outdoorsmen, men and women that were doing this. And they're all, I got this. I can do this for years. Everyone's really cocky. And then they start realizing that they miss people. It starts out on like day 1, boy, I miss coffee because I got headaches, right? There's no coffee out there. And so like, oh boy, it'd be really nice to have coffee. All of a sudden, like day 7, they stop talking about things they miss and it's all about people. And when they're talking about people, they're sobbing. And it's 7 days in. And I think the longest I've seen somebody last is like almost 70 some days, 73 days I think they lasted out in the middle of nowhere. And the people that last that long they've built everything, like little cabins. They've just figured it out. They're not hungry because they can catch their food. They have water. They have every necessity in life. But what makes them tap is they like always say, every one of them says a version, I need people. I thought I could do it alone. So those that say, hey, I don't need people to make me happy. Here's why you might say that. The first group that fall in this is that you've had so many relationships in your life, you have no idea what it would be like to have no relationship. So you say it. I don't need people to make me happy. But it's because you've never not had people around. It's like people that are satisfied with food. I don't need food. I'm very satisfied. It's because you have food in your fridge, food in your cabinets. You don't need food. But you take somebody that's starving and they realize, I need food. I'll eat anything. I'll take anything. So that's group number 1. If you're saying, well, I don't need anybody to make me happy, you're in that group. You don't recognize it, but you have enough people that keep you happy. Second group is you can't fix your isolation. You're alone. And because you're alone and you don't know how to get out of your aloneness, you begin to convince yourself that, hey, no, I can be happy without people. Isolation is dangerous because we're not created to do life alone. So if you're like, I'm alone and we do small groups here and we talk about partnering with people to unlock their God-given greatness here at Unlock Church. We want to do life with people. I love people. It doesn't matter what kind of people it is. I love people. I love them. It doesn't matter what they've said to me in my past or done to me in my past. I love them. Because now here's why. It's not because like I'm just really good and a nice person. No, it's because when I find out what Jesus did and loves people, then I got to do the same. And so if you are alone, jump into here. Also, if you're just alone and isolated, you're robbing others of your friendship, your wisdom, your personality, and things that you have to offer. You are not meant to do life alone. Stop robbing other people of you. Jump in and start doing life with people. We want you to do that. When we can't get what we want, we tell ourselves we don't really want it. Think about that. So if you can't get friendships, well, I don't really need it to be happy. We convince ourselves we don't need what we really do want, but we can't get it. Now, here's what I've learned about happy people. Happy people are at peace with themselves. Happy people are at peace with themselves. Peace actually is at the root of all happiness. So if you're not at peace with yourself, you're going to struggle to find happiness. You're going to try to find happiness in purchasing things like this. Because yes, you're going to find a momentary relief of the thing that you're struggling with, and it will be pleasure, not happiness. Purchasing this is not what actually is making me happy. It's pleasure. We get confused a lot of times with pleasure and happiness. Happiness is brought upon by peace with themselves. What does that mean, peace with ourselves? That we're comfortable in our own skin. That we know that we're not perfect. That we know we're messy people. I say it all the time. I'm just a messy guy trying to help other messy people. I ain't got it figured out. I don't always say the things I want to say. I think the things I wish I wouldn't think. I'm not always nice to everybody when I wish I was. I don't always remember to put my wife first. I'm just a messy guy trying to help messy people. But I'm comfortable in my own skin. I know my shortcomings. I know that I might have ADD, and I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm like, let's just tell people. Then they don't have to wonder, does this guy have ADD? Of course I do. I have 7 kids, okay? And when they're at home, I have a radio going and I have a TV going at the same time. And I'm reading the newspaper. I got ADD. I'm okay with it. I think it makes me kind of fun. I talk, and I know that I talk really fast. Like I know I do. I got a lot to say in a short amount of time to say it. And if I talk really fast, you just watch this stuff on YouTube and slow it down. It'll be normal speed for you. I know these things. And so when somebody says these things, I'm not offended. I'm like, I know. I got it. It's great, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing. I'm comfortable with my own skin most of the time. Sometimes I don't win that battle. People that are comfortable with themselves or at peace with themselves, they are not at war with themselves. They're not warring with themselves. I want to do that, but I know I shouldn't do that. That war is not happening with them. Happy people are at peace with themselves and with others. Happy people are at peace with themselves and others. Now, others is everybody else that isn't you, okay? The person that you agree with at work and the person that you just want to poke them in the eye. You're like, I don't understand how you can treat people like that. I don't know how you can run a business like that. I don't know how you can do what you're doing. I just don't know. I want to poke you in the eye. You got to be at peace with them. The person that drives you the most bonkers. If you're not at peace with people, you are not going to have happiness. Happy people are at peace with themselves and others. We aren't angry with people. If you find yourself angry at people, where there is anger cannot be peace. So maybe at one point you were married with someone and then there situations happen and you got a divorce and you just can't handle that other person and you are angry at them because of what they did to you. Pause. You got to figure out how to have peace with what happened in your past to be happy. So that means some of us got to look backwards and make some corrections in our past so that we can be happy in our present, in the present day. If we don't deal with that, you can't be happy today. So maybe immediately some of you are going, yeah, there's this person that did this one thing to me that I can't forgive them. It's time to let go. And I don't even stand up here saying from a platform of like, oh, my life has been good. I've never had anything happen to me. I've never been wronged in my life. I've never been taken advantage of. I've never been hurt. My life is, no, I'm speaking from a life of I've been wronged. I've been wronged, and people told me you need to work against, you need to go at them. You need to go after them. And then I go, what would Jesus do in this moment? And I don't see Jesus running after people to get what they want out of a situation. I see Jesus going, no, well, I'm at peace with you. You need to be at peace with the people in your past, because that becomes your present day. Like my dad, I love my dad, but my dad didn't come to any of my athletic events ever. My dad never threw a football to me. He never threw a baseball at me, like not at me, like glove and catch. You're like, okay, it'd be weird if he did, wouldn't it? Okay, just fleshing that one out with all of you. But my dad didn't do any of that. My dad loved cars. I didn't want to be under a hood of a car. I could be really upset at my dad and go, I didn't have a very good dad. I missed out on a life of my dad throwing a football. Or I can just be at peace with my dad, go, man, that's my dad. That's his personality. I'm all right with that. That's the dad that I had. I love him. Or I could be, and there was a season in my life that I was like, man, my dad didn't do this with me, and then I'm going to be this kind of dad because that dad was like that. That's not my dad's problem. It is a me problem at that moment. And so I had to get in peace with my dad so I could be happy today, because I found myself when somebody would bring up their dad was their coach and these different things, I would find myself upset again. And then it reminded me, I remember Jesus tapping me on the shoulder, like not literally coming by and going, hey, this is Jesus, I'm tapping you on the shoulder. It's that nudge, your stomach gets like butterflies in it and you like, I got to do something about this. That's Jesus typically. If it's the right thing, not the butterflies to do the wrong thing, that's the other guy, okay? Jesus is the guy to do the right thing, say the right thing, okay? Just clarifying. But it's being at peace with the people that have hurt you and that you're angry at, and it's your job, not their job, to come and do that. They're not sitting in this room today. If you're waiting for them to come and apologize to you, it's your turn to turn around and go, I forgive you. Because then you can be at peace with those that have hurt you. See, people that are at peace with other people, they are not trying to get even. When they hear their stories by other people, they don't hear people going, hey, I should go do something, and they're not listening to that. They're going, no, Jesus wouldn't do that. So happy people are at peace with themselves, others, and not all the time, but most of the time they're at peace with God. And why I say that is that, man, obviously here at Unlock Church, we're going to talk about a relationship with Jesus and with God. We're going to talk about those things. Man, this is a vital piece of my life and should be a vital piece of your life. But you're going to bump into some people in life that they don't have a relationship with God, but they seem happy. So I'm saying I'm leaving room for that for some of those that would like to have an argument about it. So I put some of the time, but I would believe that in my life, the reason I am happy most of the time in my life is because of I'm at peace with God. That I'm at peace with God. So, I'm going to ask you this question. Are you at peace with yourself? Are you at peace with others? And are you in peace with God? If not, you've got to do something. Okay, so if all of this is true, when you are not at peace with yourself or with others or with God, then you're undermining your happiness. You will not find happiness in buying a bigger something product or a bigger car or a house or getting a different dog. Those things are not going to bring you happiness. You're undermining your happiness if you are at war in one of these areas in your life. And so as a follower of Jesus, I have learned peace with God paves the way to peace with others and equips us to make peace with themselves. I'm going to read that again. As a follower of Jesus, that's my viewpoint, right? And when I say follower of Jesus, you're maybe going, well, what is the difference between a Christian and a follower of Jesus? Here, at the end of the day, when I say the word Christian, there's so many contexts of that word. You've worked with some that you're like, no. When I read through the Bible, the word Christian pops up a few times, but what pops up a ton of times is Jesus bumping into men and women and going, hey, will you follow me? Jesus invites all of us to be a follower of him. And I want to remind myself that I'm following Jesus. If I'm following Jesus, I need to allow him to have influence into my life then. Because in that relationship, peace with God peace with God, with Jesus, it paves the way to peace with ourselves and equips us to make peace with others. I hope that's sinking in right there. If you have a peace with God, it's going to permeate, it's going to overflow into the other areas in your life, and you're going to be a kinder person. You're going to think higher of yourselves. Ultimately, you're going to be a happier person. Okay, so let's jump into what Jesus had to say on this topic, because really what I've done is broke down what Jesus has to say on this topic before I'm reading what Jesus has to say on this topic. Are you tracking? I don't know if you are. It made sense up here, okay? Here's Jesus was approached by a lawyer in his days, okay? Like, you get it. Like, Jesus was born 2,018 years ago, right? Our yearly calendar is set on Jesus' birth, okay? So over 2,000 years ago, or just under 2,000 years ago, I guess, because he about this time he's 30 years old. Jesus is walking around, he's doing miracles and doing some mind-blowing stuff. And this lawyer guy, a really smart guy in his day, comes up to Jesus and goes, okay, I got a question for you, Jesus. And these smart people are always trying to trap Jesus. They wanted to get Jesus into a corner and go, look, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy, Jesus, he's not the Messiah. They just wanted to always prove that Jesus wasn't who he was. So this lawyer, the author Matthew records the story. Author Matthew is one of Jesus' disciples. Matthew wrote a book called Matthew, and these are eyewitness accounts that Jesus did and said these things. It's like if I met you for the first time and you began to tell a story about how yesterday you caught this walleye the size of me, and you show me other people have wrote about it, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't have to be there to believe you. You had eyewitness accounts and somebody wrote about it and you're telling me about it. I'm going to believe it. So why, when it comes to Jesus, when we have eyewitness accounts and we have people that were there that are writing it, do we question Jesus? Wouldn't life be so much better if we just said, you know, I'm going to choose to trust Jesus on all said topics? Because all of a sudden you're going to watch your happiness levels rise up, because peace with Jesus equips us to have peace with ourselves and others. And so this expert in the law, this lawyer, tests him with this question, Matthew chapter 22, verse 35. Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? It's a lawyer, so he wants laws, right? He wants a commandment. Like, if you grew up in the church, you get 10 Commandments stuff, right? You're like, 10 Commandments, yeah, thou shalt not lie, steal, and just commandment. So he's like, what's the greatest commandment? Trying to back Jesus in the corner. And Jesus replies, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. Okay. That's the greatest commandment, Jesus says. That's number one. So you want to know what you need to do with your life? You want to know what's the first goal? What Jesus just said there is be at peace with God. That's what Jesus is saying there, okay? But he breaks it down for any of us that would have more questions. What's peace with God look like? Love your God, which God is who God, Jesus, who died on a cross for our sins. Love your God with all of your heart, and all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. Nothing trumps this one, Jesus says. This is it. Number one. I mean, right there, we could just say amen and go home and go, we got a lot of work to do. Because that's not me all the time. But then Jesus doesn't stop there. He doesn't stop there. He's about to go on to another thing. But again, remember, what does that sound like when I just read that a second ago? Love your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. It sounds very relational. It doesn't sound like a law. It doesn't sound like a commandment. Because if I commanded you to like me, well, that's not relational. That's dictatorship. That's manipulation. But in a relationship, it's this, I want to be around you and you be around me. It's this trade-off. A relationship is a two-way thing. And so Jesus comes along and goes, hold on, it's not really a command. It's about relationships. And then Jesus doesn't go, hold on, my wise lawyer buddy. Let me continue to tell you. The second is like it. Now, when Jesus is saying like it, he's not saying that it's just underneath it. He didn't say it's the second. He says it's just like it. It's tied. You can't do this one without the other. It's tied. So he's about to blow this lawyer guy out of the water because it's going to be like, what did you just say? Jesus goes, the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All three things that we can find our ultimate happiness is wrapped up right there. Peace with God, peace with others, and peace with yourself. It's all locked into these two things. So if you're struggling to be happy, it's not a thing problem, it's a who problem. And the who could be you, it could be others, or it could be God. And we all fall in a different category today. What category do you fall in? See, most of us view God as an obstacle to our happiness, but God provides the way to be happy. I'll wrap it up with this thought, is that Jesus comes along and says, hey, listen, this is how we should live. I will be an example. I'm going to be an example how you should do life. I'm going to show you how to do this. And then he invites you to be a follower of him because he's going to say, hey, I'm not trying to be a dictator in your life because that's called religion. Jesus is saying, I want to be in a relationship with you. A relationship is a lot of conversations, a lot of talking, going, hey, in our context, how should I treat the person that does this? Well, what does Jesus have to say? Oh, man. Okay, he says to love them as yourself. Well, what would I want to be done to me? Well, I wouldn't want that to be done to me, so I'm not going to treat them like that. And you default that way. Okay, so then I'm at peace. To resist Jesus is actually to resist happiness. In the Western culture of the United States, we are on a quest to be happy. And that's okay. We're going to talk about the quest next week. It's okay to be on the quest to be happy. You should be happy. Jesus wants you to be happy. He teaches us how to be happy. But if you're not at peace in any of these places, especially starting with Jesus, then you're resisting your own happiness. Think about it. Most of us, when we look back in our lives, we start regretting things. Most of it, and when we start regretting those things, most of it has nothing to do with the loss of peace with things, but it's a loss of peace with God, others, and ourselves. Your biggest regrets in life are not, oh man, I should have bought that bigger house. Your biggest regrets are going to be relational. See, Jesus invites every one of us into a relationship with him to make peace with God, others, and yourself. Now I'm going to, really quick, we're going to get the band up here, I'm going to use a very churchy word. Because in this, it's the real deal. Sin. I know. You're like, there it is. I'm a first-time guest on Mother's Day, and you're going to talk about sin. I need to. Because sin erodes your happiness. And we all are on the same plane here. Now I know, how do you define sin? However you define sin, you define it that way, okay? But most of us are going to say, well, it's when I'm wronged or I've wronged someone. Okay, that's defining sin. But sin, it erodes our happiness. It substitutes the real deal, and it separates. Think about it. Whatever your definition of sin, now me as a follower of Jesus, I'm going to obviously use Jesus' words to define sin as missing the mark. If perfection's the goal, I can't do that. I missed the mark. That's sin in my life, okay? I know I'm supposed to love everyone, and there are times, I know, the pastor, there are times that I don't love everyone. There's times that I roll my eyes at people. There's times that I want to poke some people in their eyes. I just do. That offends you. I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm just a messy guy that loves Jesus, trying to figure out how to raise 7 kids, to love my wife, and to control my ADD. Okay, I just am. I'm a messy guy. And so you define, like, if you're not a follower of Jesus yet, that's fine. Now, I would invite you in to do that. But you know sin when it happens, or you've done it by your definition. It's that, boy, if I ever did that, I couldn't live with myself. Boy, if I ever did that, I couldn't live with myself. In that statement, whatever you just said, if I ever did, that's you defining what sin is for you. Now, Jesus, he loves us. He wants us to have life and life to the fullest. He is not trying to rob us of our happiness. He wants us to be happy. But when I said sin, it erodes your happiness. It's substitute. Think about this. I got a few illustrations of how sin substitutes for the real deal. Jesus wants you to be happy. But if I was to purchase this and go into a massive amount of debt and it just destroys my marriage because, or maybe it's a car. I just went on, I wanted a car and I'll go and get all this debt and I know I shouldn't have, and I just knew I should, and I sinned. I sinned, like Holly and I talked about it. She's like, I don't think we should do that. We can't afford it. And I go and do that. And I come back and I go, I bought it anyways. Well, I just wronged Holly. There's a separation between our relationship, and I have substituted the happiness for the thing. Sin substitutes the man-made, usually, for the real deal. Intimacy. We trade intimacy for images. There are people addicted to pornography, which they trade in intimacy for pornography. They're substituting. It separates us from others. It separates us from God and separates from ourselves. Sin, whatever that is you're defining as sin. Sin substitutes your future for the now. When you wrong someone else, if let's say you came up here and told me, man, I got a problem with all 7 of your kids. I really don't like them. I don't like the way they look. They're funny looking. Their names are ridiculous. You know that when that happens, you and I got a problem, right? Doesn't mean we're gonna fight. That's not what I'm saying. But we're gonna have a problem. It's like, those are my kids, man. Okay, I love on them. Okay, in my opinion, they're the coolest ever. Okay, they're my kids. Now I know they're not perfect. They're messy little kids, but I love my kids. So if you have a problem with my kids, you and I got a problem. I'm not picking a fight. Come on, you all know this. And when you have a problem with other people, those are God's kids. And so you can't be okay with God and not be okay with someone else that God loves. So if you got other people problems, you got to fix that, because you got a God problem too. That's why Jesus comes along and he's teaching us this. Listen, your happiness comes from, man, when you're at peace with God, peace with yourself, and peace with others. James chapter 1, verse 15, last verse. I love every time I get to talk about James, because the cool thing about James is Jesus' half-brother. They grew up together. Could you imagine being the younger brother to Jesus? Okay, seriously. Like, could you imagine a scenario, hey, this is Mary saying to James, hey, James, will you go get some water from the well? Oh, hold on, no. Jesus, would you go get the water from the well? If you don't, there's a story in the Bible where Jesus is sitting by a well. You should read it, it's a good story. And Jesus talks about the well, and so Jesus is going to he's like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll get you the water that'll never thirst again. Or James is asked, hey, Jesus, would you, or James, would you do this? I just think, man, it'd be a struggle to grow up under Jesus. And James, as Jesus is living on earth, hated Jesus. Thought Jesus was a liar, wasn't who he said he was. But all of a sudden we read in a book that James writes that after Jesus did what he said he was going to do, which was give his life for you and I, so that we might be able to have some way to deal with our wrongs, whatever you defined your sin as, but there's nothing I can do. I can't be good enough. I can't buy my way. It's like, man, I got to trust that Jesus is who he said he is. And here is James then says, listen, I was wrong at one point. My brother is who he said he is. Now listen what James writes in James chapter 1, verse 15. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. In sin, when it is fully grown, gives birth to death. Unmanaged sin destroys. My kids, man, they come in, they know they did something wrong in our household, and they're at the age, some of them, that they figure they can lie their way out of it, and then they figure out that the more wrong they do, the bigger the mess gets, the bigger the consequences, and I'm just trying to teach them, hold up, when you recognize what you've done wrong, just admit it, because when you admit it, you can deal with it, because if not, when it is fully grown, it gives birth to death. In their scenarios, it's a loss of something. You need to bring the toy to me. It's a lot. That's a version of death for them. It's true. We see it all the time. We just don't want to admit it because it's like, hold up, what? See, Jesus loves us enough to give us a way to deal with when we're not at peace with Him, not peace with others or ourselves. He's like, hold up, I'm the peacemaker. And so let me sum it all up today. It's like 4 or 5 sentences. This is it. Since happiness is about a who and not a what, and since happy people are at peace with themselves, others, and possibly God, and since sin undermines peace by separating and substituting, and since God valued and prioritized peace with God, ourselves, and others, and since you want to be happy, you should consider becoming a follower of Jesus. This is up to you. Some of you got work to do. You're like, I'm a follower of Jesus, but man, I'm not at peace in one of those 3 areas. That's your homework. Some of you walked in here and you don't have a relationship with God. This is your invitation. This is it. This is the game changer. And I know you're like, whoa, this is so big. What do I do next? Just keep coming back to Unlock Church. We'll keep helping. We'll teach. We'll show you. We ain't got it all figured out. We might not know all your questions, the answers to your questions, but we'll figure it out together. We'll go and say, what does Jesus have to say on that topic? I don't know. Let's go figure it out. That's the fun bit about it. But to transfer your trust into Jesus is the ultimate find of happiness. And what breaks my heart when I say I love people is that there's millions of people running around that are not happy, but they think they can buy their happiness. They can borrow money to buy more happiness. They think if I date this person or this kind of person, I'll find happiness. Or if I drink this, smoke that, look at this, I'll be happy. Wouldn't it be great if you don't have to do that anymore to be happy? Would you close your eyes for a moment? And we say it like this a lot here. What is Jesus saying to you, and what are you going to do about it today? What is Jesus saying to you today, and what are you going to do about it? Because He's speaking to every one of us, first-time guests or been here since the beginning, raised in church. Jesus is speaking to us today, and what's He saying? And can you be bold enough to take this step? Some of you right now need to say, Jesus, I'm going to be a follower of You. I believe today, I'm deciding to believe that You died on a cross and rose again. I believe that. Some of you need to just say that in your mind right now. Jesus, I believe that. Some of you need to go, that stuff that separates, Jesus, forgive me of that. Man, I don't want to do that anymore. Some of you need to get peace with others. Jesus, speak very clearly to us over the next few moments. May business be done with You. May relationships begin to be restored, if that's with You, with themselves, or others. May people that have never chosen to jump into a relationship with You, never seen it this way, may this be the moment that You brought them here today, that our lives have collided together for such a time as this because You want to show up and show off. May hearts be racing at this moment, and the excitement that You're doing something in our lives be real right now. Speak to us so very clearly, Jesus. May we stop undermining our happiness. May we stop allowing sin to erode our happiness. May we find peace with You, ourselves, and others. As we picture those people we need to go apologize to or say, I forgive you to, may we have the guts to go do it. Jesus, may we find ourselves more happy today than ever before. Thank You for all of our moms and how they are an example in most cases of love and mercy and grace. I thank You. Keep showing off in our lives, Jesus. Give us eyes to see it. In Your name, amen.